Nuclear's next test is scale, not technology. For much of the past 20 years, nuclear energy debates in the United States centered on safety, waste management, and public acceptance. Those issues remain part of the landscape, but they are no longer the dominant limiting factors. Instead, nuclear has struggled with execution risk. Recent U.S. projects have been characterized by custom designs rather than standardized builds, fragmented domestic supply chains, long construction timelines that magnify financing costs, project-specific regulatory and contracting structures. The result has been cost escalation and schedule uncertainty, even for mature reactor technologies. In contrast, other energy infrastructure, particularly gas-fired generation, has benefited from repeatable designs, modular supply chains, and predictable development pathways. As electricity demand rises, this execution gap has become harder to ignore. Demand growth is changing the equation. According to the U.S. Department of Energy, U.S. electricity demand could increase by at least 50% by 2050, driven by a combination of data centers and AI workloads, electrification of transportation and industry, population growth, and rising cooling demand. At the same time, grid planners are contending with long interconnection queues, transmission build-out timelines measured in years, not months, increasing price volatility during peak demand periods. These dynamics elevate the value of firm, dispatchable power, resources that can operate continuously regardless of weather conditions. Nuclear's technical attributes align well with that need. U.S. nuclear plants historically operate at capacity factors above 90%, far higher than most other generation sources. The issue has been deploying new capacity without introducing unacceptable financial and schedule risk. What the order book model is trying to solve, that challenge is at the center of the Nuclear Scaling Initiative's strategy. Backed by a $3.5 million philanthropic commitment from the Bezos Earth Fund, the Nuclear Scaling Initiative is advancing an order book approach for large, mature reactor designs in the United States. An order book aggregates commitments from multiple buyers to build the same reactor design across different sites. Instead of one-off projects, developers and suppliers see a pipeline of repeat builds. In other industries, order books have been instrumental in lowering unit costs through learning curves, justifying upfront investment in manufacturing capacity, stabilizing labor demand and workforce training, improving schedule reliability. Commercial aviation, shipbuilding, and gas-fired power generation all rely on some form of aggregated demand to scale efficiently. Nuclear largely has not. Why standardization matters more than novelty. Historically, nuclear cost reductions have followed repetition, not innovation. International experience shows that countries that standardized reactor designs and committed to series construction were able to reduce construction times, lower per-unit costs over successive builds, improve regulatory familiarity and oversight efficiency. In contrast, the U.S. approach, marked by frequent design changes and project-specific customization, has limited opportunities for shared learning. The order book model does not eliminate risk, but it reshapes it. By aligning multiple stakeholders around a single design and schedule framework, it reduces uncertainty for financiers assessing long-term returns, suppliers deciding whether to invest in domestic manufacturing, regulators overseeing repeated, familiar designs. Execution is now a system issue. The renewed focus on nuclear scale reflects a broader shift in how energy risk is understood. As electricity demand growth accelerates, execution delays are no longer isolated project problems. They affect capacity planning and reserve margins, wholesale power prices during peak periods, the pace of industrial electrification, and data center development. In that context, nuclear's challenge is not competing on marginal cost alone, but demonstrating it can deliver capacity when it is needed, on timelines aligned with grid planning. This is why the philanthropic funding targets coordination rather than technology. The bet is that process discipline and demand aggregation can unlock much larger pools of public and private capital. A measured bet on coordination. The $3.5 million commitment itself is modest relative to the capital required for nuclear deployment. Its significance lies in what it enables: a coordinated, multi-party effort involving federal, state, and commercial actors to test whether an order book can be assembled in the U.S. context. If successful, the model could improve financing terms, by reducing perceived project risk, encourage domestic supply chain investment, support workforce development through predictable demand, create a clearer pathway for fleet-scale nuclear deployment. If it fails, it will reinforce the reality that nuclear's barriers are institutional rather than technical. Why this moment matters. The U.S. energy system is entering a period where demand growth, reliability, and emissions constraints intersect. Solutions that scale slowly or unpredictably carry increasing economic and operational costs. Nuclear's next test will not be whether it can operate safely or efficiently. Those questions are largely settled. The test is whether it can be built again and again with declining risk and increasing confidence. The order book effort represents an attempt to answer that question directly. You've been listening to Sustainability Soundbites by Environment and Energy Leader. For partnership opportunities, please reach out to our team.